So, today we're going to dive into this really revolutionary idea that promised to change work as we know it, the flat organization. We're talking no bosses, no bureaucracy, just pure, unadulterated collaboration. I mean, it sounded like an absolute dream, right? But what actually happened when that dream crashed into reality? Well, let's find out.
You know the feeling, don't you? We've all been there. You have a great idea, but to get it approved, it has to crawl up this endless ladder of management, and by the time it comes back down, it's barely recognizable. It's that exact frustration with corporate red tape that made the whole idea of a flat organization sound so refreshing.
So let's get on the same page. What exactly is a flat organizational structure? Well, think of it like this. It's all about getting rid of the middleman. You basically slash the layers of middle management, creating a much more direct line between the people actually doing the work and the people setting the vision. The whole point is to make decisions right where the action is happening, not 5 floors up in a corner office.
And you can see why that idea was so powerful. For a while there, it really felt like this was the future of work, no question about it. So let's start with the good stuff. Let's look at the promise of this bossless world and figure out why so many companies were practically tripping over themselves to make the switch.
Okay, the first huge promise was all about speed. In a classic top-down hierarchy, making a decision can be just painfully slow. The flat model was designed to blow that up. By giving employees more autonomy, the theory was that companies could react to changes in the market almost instantly, no more waiting for permission.
The second big idea was about communication. The goal was to just shatter those organizational silos, where every team kind of hoards its own information. The flat structure was supposed to create these wide open channels where ideas and resources could just flow freely between everyone, sparking all sorts of new and unexpected collaborations. And look, this wasn't just some feel-good experiment. The promises here were real and tangible. We're talking more creativity because people feel empowered, way higher motivation because they feel trusted, and hey, a much healthier bottom line because you're cutting out all those expensive layers of management. It was a seriously compelling pitch. But, as we all know, a great pitch is one thing. Reality? That's something else entirely. So now let's get to the juicy part of the story. What happens when this beautiful dream starts to run into some really harsh, really complicated realities?
Because that initial wave of excitement, it was pretty quickly followed by a lot of companies publicly admitting things weren't working out. What sounded amazing on paper started to show some really serious cracks when it was put into practice, especially as these companies started to get bigger.
And we're not talking about tiny unknown startups here. Some of the most forward-thinking, innovative tech companies of their time, companies that had been the biggest cheerleaders for the flat model, they all started to back away from it, very publicly. And that right there was a huge red flag for the whole movement.
This quote from the CEO of Wistia, Chris Savage, just nails the problem. He says they tried to get rid of hierarchy, but what happened instead? They just made it invisible. They ended up with this secret structure, this unspoken hierarchy, and the irony is, it actually made them slower, not faster.
And this isn't even a new idea. There's a concept from way back in the 70s called the tyranny of structurelessness, and the core insight is brilliant. Structure is inevitable. It's going to happen one way or another. So if you don't create a formal, accountable one, an informal one will pop up in its place, one based on friendships or charisma or just plain popularity. And that kind of hidden power structure can be way more toxic and way harder to deal with. And the human cost of these experiments? It could be incredibly high. Just look at Zappos. When they went all in on Holacracy, which is a very specific rule-heavy version of self-management, they basically told their employees, get on board or take a severance package. And you know what? Nearly a third of them, 30%, took the money and left. That is a staggering number of people. This quote from an ex-employee at the gaming company Valve just paints such a vivid picture. She said it felt a lot like high school, where you have the popular kids who have all the real power. When things aren't formalized, it can easily devolve into social cliques. And suddenly, it's not about the best ideas winning anymore. It's about who you know. And that's the exact opposite of what they were trying to achieve.
So, what's the answer? Do we just give up and go back to the old, rigid pyramid? Well, not necessarily. In this final section, we're going to explore a much more nuanced approach, one that moves beyond this simplistic black and white debate of flat versus hierarchy. Even Google learned this lesson the hard way. Early on, they actually tried getting rid of all their managers. The whole experiment lasted just a few months. Why? Because the founders were suddenly drowning in questions about expense reports and interpersonal squabbles. It turns out you absolutely need someone to handle that stuff so that everyone else can do their jobs.
And this brings us to what I think is the real key insight here. The whole debate was framed completely wrong. The enemy isn't hierarchy itself. It's bad hierarchy. The goal shouldn't be to just blow up the structure, but to intentionally and thoughtfully design a good one.
Okay, let's make this real. Imagine two department heads, Verena and Michael, have a disagreement. In a typical bad hierarchy, what do? They both run to their boss, the problem gets kicked up the chain, and they never actually talk to each other. But in a healthier, well-designed system, the expectation is totally different. They're supposed to talk directly to each other first and try to solve it. They own the problem.
And getting there requires a huge shift in mindset. The former CEO of Citrix put it perfectly. He said the trap is when we confuse someone's rank in the hierarchy with their value as a person. The real goal is to use that structure simply to manage complexity, while at the same time building a culture where every single person at every level is treated with respect.
So how do you actually do that? Well, it all comes down to being intentional. First, make the goals crystal clear so everyone knows what you're trying to achieve. Second, you have to actively build the culture, piece by piece. Third, give your teams the right tools to collaborate effectively. And fourth, and this might be the most important one, don't fire your managers. Instead, invest in training them to be truly great leaders.
Which finally brings us to our conclusion. After this whole journey, I think it's pretty clear we've been asking the wrong question the whole time. This binary choice, this idea that you have to pick between a pyramid and a pancake, it's a false choice.
The real question is about intention. Have you actually sat down and thoughtfully designed a system, whatever its shape, that gives your people clear goals, that fosters a culture of respect, and it's full of empowered leaders? Have you built something that truly enables people to do their absolute best work? That is the question that really truly matters.